So just up top, in case anyone had the same immediate instinct that I had the first time I saw it, to hop onto the internet and check the reality of this. There really was a hippo named Pepe who descended from the original 4 Pablo Escobar hippos that were brought over in the 80s, who really did leave the herd after having a conflict with the most dominant member of the pack, and separated away with his mate, and who really was hunted and killed in, I think, 2009. And this was an international incident. You can read about it in the New York Times, etc. So not mysterious to me at all why one would want to make a film about something so interesting. But can you tell us about your way into this story? What attracted you to this?
Yes. Thank you for staying. Yes. So when I made a film before called Cocote, no, and then I finished this film. It was very tiring, and then the first time I went, I had money to do backpacking into a country, so I became like a after making Cocote, a European or an American backpacker. It was the first time with my salary. So I went to Colombia and I traveled to some friends' houses, and one of them is Camilo Restrepo, who is a painter, and he studied with me in art school. And he had a model where there was like a hippo looking at like 1,000 of this green soldier that when you grow up, you understand that they were the U.S. Army, which is a little bit fucked up. For the rest, like we were playing with this. This is how, at the same time, this is how we, from the Americanization for me, which is the second global subjectivity. The first one was Eurocentrism. Then Americanization takes Eurocentrism into another perspective. This is how we start from the beginning, creating this idea of the world, no, even though we're not. So we start playing with the U.S. Army as a savior, no. So when I said, well, what is this? So he told me the story that you just tell to everybody, but he made a biological mistake, and it's actually this biological mistake what actually is going to haunt me. And it's going to impact my days, and I'm going to start thinking, of course, being by myself in those jungle I never been, in those places, spending a lot of time with myself, healing some devastating moments after Cocote. So I started to think about the story, and the biological mistake that he did was that he said that when a male fight with an alpha within the herd, they're exiled. If the alpha doesn't kill the other male who wants to copulate with the females, so they are exiled from the herd, and they have to they have to find another herd, and enter sumis. Is that a word in English, like sumis?
Submission?
Yeah, in a submissive way, and so this, what he told me is that this hippo went down the river of the Magdalena River, which is a very important river because it is where the conquerors in the time of the Spanish colonization is how they enter South America, is through the Magdalena River, and so it's a very important river in the foundation of what is going to be our territories, of course. So when he goes there, of course, he faced death, and for me was, the idea, of course, as a human, you interpret things from a human perspective, and I was like, this image of a hippo looking for another herd, not understanding that he's not in Africa, he's in a new continent where there's no more like him, no? And what he ends to be is dead, for me was very devastating, and I started to think, of course, in actually the first thing that came out of my head, is the last sentence of of the monologue of Pepe, no? Like started to imagine, and not only in South America or Central America or North America, but the whole continent. We see it not from an American perspective, no, that it divides continent so they can be one continent in itself, and in their in this idea of separating and creating this exceptional nation, and but for us it's one continent, no? So through the history of this continent, it's like is to see like how many people die not knowing where they really were, and how did you build a society where the foundation of this society has one of these main characteristics, that many people, no matter what race, die on not understanding exactly what place they were exactly in the world. The world was an unknown. So it's built upon those deaths that are, creating this unknown place that it will be our countries in the future, no? So I started to think about all that. And just to finalize, it is a biological mistake, because actually what they do is that they go out when they are exiled, they go with a female, and this is how they expand in the territory. But because of this biological mistake, is what it started that I can start thinking about this universe that you guys all saw. Yeah.
So much of our way into psychologically what you're talking about comes from the monologue, the voiceover. And my first question is about the voice actor, which I think when I was watching it for the first time, I think that was immediately when I knew that I was seeing something special, the quality of the voice and the language. Can you talk to us about the role of that monologue, but also just the voice, the particulars of that voice?
Yeah, so first there is a text, no, a monologue that was originated even before the script. It was the first thing that I wrote, and it became a piece that actually didn't change that much in the whole process, even in the editing. Like it became like the structure, the essence of this film, and everything started to ramify from this monologue. The first thing that when I was looking for actors, I knew that I was doing a fable, right? So one of the main characteristics is to personificate an animal. In the moment that I enter the world of the fantastic, the world of the fable, maybe one of the most colonized by the idea of a blockbuster cinema is colonized in those genre. In the moment that my film or this voice enter in conversation with this representation that most of the time is from this massive cinema, I knew that it was going to be a mistake. So for me, I needed to get far from this perspective, and but then I was entering in a too political space, and then I was losing a little bit of the ludic part that a fable has to do. So it was very difficult, actually. I was like experimenting a lot with my voice, and like in the beginning, because I say, okay, what am I going to go out and look? I mean, what is it? And like so a very simple idea, understanding also how do I build my work, which always has to do with a pisk of reality, like but also understanding that many problems of the mise en scène not only became I don't find a solution only in cinema. I think one of the problems of cinema and having this series of films is that they are obsessed, and they create an impossible cacophony that is only in cinema is revolving, right? And if you see a film as a semiotic, for example, process, a semiotic will use like many other science or social science in this case. So you start complicating the problem, and probably you start resolving the problems of the mise-en-scène as cinema as not the only reference. So it opens the problem of that. So I remember how I built upon my characters and all of that. So I went back again to the sound of the hippos. But of course, I'm from the Dominican Republic. I was born there, and then I've been living in many other places, but none of them have hippos, right? So I was like, okay, so how do they sound, no? So I started to have like a recordings, and I went to places and record, and started to have this trance of the voice, no? But also we cannot forget that this is not just a hippo, it's the ghost of a hippo. So the representation of the ghost has also have to do part of the elements of the built upon of this character, of course, no? So how do I understand the ghost? How do I understand the trance? I try. So in the way that, for example, I'm Caribbean, how we get in touch with the divine. I made a film before where I talked about evangelicals and Cocote and the Afro interpretation of Catholicism. We can say that as syncretism. There's a big difference is that the Anglo-Saxon German world, which is the Protestant, the body is what carries the scene, no, right? But in our Afro interpretation of Catholicism that happened, no, is the body what carries the divine. So there's a big difference of that there. So how do you carry the divine? You carry through the trance of being possessed. So this character somehow has to be built upon this melody that I know very well since I'm a kid. Remember those chanting, those people that are being possessed. No, when I was going with my parents to this manifestation. No, and this voice that goes that it started to become in a trance. So I cannot forget, and of course the trance will be from the sound specifically of the hippo and how to become a narrator, no? Because we are in a film and it has to be like that. So when I started to feel this, I was looking for the most. There's no people dedicated to do hippos voices, no? So we started to. There's not a gremio, a union, no? There's not a union of people that interpret hippos. So we started to, experiment, and of course I choose the people that have these kids, Harmony and Farid. They are incredible how they jump from the sound of the hippo and the voice, and we started to, and of course, because it is, and I'm sorry because I know that I'm talking, but I spent 4 years making films, so everything it has a 4 years journey. So what I started to see, because I wanted to work with from another perspective, doesn't have anything to do with the fable. I wanted Pepe was able to speak every language that this historical moment was in touch. Right? It say Afrikaans, because Afrikaans is the language of the oppressor of the territory of Namibia, and Bukushu because is the main language that the Okavango River has, and is where the film chooses that they are kidnapped, and at the same time it is the biggest place where more what hippos are more conserved, in Africa, no? And then of course Spanish, because he goes to the transatlantic. So this already Frankenstein character that have many voices, no, started to create a own personality through the personality of the actor. So it gets very rich, very composed, like perhaps an analogy of the complexity of how we are. No, we're not monolithic in an identity. We are identities. No, we are subjectivity that is already a complex system of many things. So these voices, and also when I started to talk about to make it a more technical, if I'm going to make a voice that is going to be manipulated through digital effects, through digital EQs and Pro Tools and all of these programs, that's when I get close to this easy interpretation that the big cinema does with a lot of special effects, a lot of technician, and you can do voices incredible with artificial intelligence, whatever. No, I wanted to have body with it. So these voices have very little digital manipulation. So this is this what you heard was actually performance, and it just have a little bit. I remember I double in my timeline. I double the voice. I put a pitch in -2, the other one in -1, and creates these echoes. That's the only thing that it has that, and that's it. I mean, it's an incredible performance work that they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just outside, before we came in, we were talking about how for us at NYFF, in the scheme of our main slate, this is one of the more experimental offerings that we have. And I think I would love to just hear a little bit from you and then open up to the audience, but about your style. I think some of the stuff that really stood out to me early on when I was seeing it for the first time were just the images, for example, of the helicopters carrying the, what are they called that the hippos are in?
In a box?
Yeah, in boxes, in prisons, and the mobile prisons. But the images across the various skylines. I mean, I'm so glad that you brought up things like the trance-ness of it, because there's something so dreamy and something so surreal, but also hard to put my finger on. It's like I'm looking at the images and I'm trying to figure them out. I'm thinking about what I'm seeing. I would love to just talk about your style, because there are a variety of styles here that I think you're working with, and I think that's really one of the interesting things.
Imagine because this is it's my language, no? It's my orality. Maybe I can, yeah. Because it's not just Pepe. All my films are in this. There's many things. Let me see. I think I started to create a genuine voice when I started to, because I made a change. Let's say I made a shift. I was in the film school. I studied cinematography, right? And then I got a scholarship and an exchange, and I went to the art school. And this was very important to me because when you are in a film school, and everybody that has been in film school, cinema, the film in itself, it's more perhaps something that has to do with the product of communication. The problem with the product of communication is that have this word product. And product is something that is going to be exchangeable in the market, right? So when I go to the art world, the film is not anymore a product of communication, but it is an object, right? So it's an ontological difference, because if both are articulating, is creating a language between the articulation between sound and image, they have very different purpose. And the problem is that when you are dealing with the film as an object, you start creating a certain type of physicality there. And this physicality, it is the result of seeing this as a sculpture that you started to mold, right? This is something that is very different in the sense of the production of as a product of communication, where narrative films, for example, every element of the mise en scène has to serve to the narration. And the narration in this world becomes with a formula, and depends of what kind of film you, especially the Anglo-Saxon film cinema, started to have this efficiency. Communication also has an efficiency in the way that it communicates. So when you enter the problem of efficiency, you enter the problem of a function, an utilitarian. You say, okay, Marvel, whatever. Marvel and all these things, they are the most ideological films that you can ever imagine, because it is part of the, you can see the ideological of the advertising company, of the empire, the Americanization will not be possible without Hollywood. It is impossible to do that. That was something that it was very important, even for the people of the United States, within the United States as well, and in how they are going to be thinking in that. So when you get out of this, and of course I started to read, I had incredible mentors like Billy Woodbury, that he was my mentor at CalArts, and he's the one who started to infect me with readings that are going to revolutionize my head. They're going to make a revolve there. So I started to pay attention to something, because I remember that I made a film called "You Look Like a Carriage That Not Even the Oxen Can Stop," and that was the first film that I did with Dominicans, And because I was at CalArts, I saw that and they don't speak Spanish. I have to translate this Spanish into English, and it was the first time I saw my Spanish, as a text, and I will see, okay, this is a very crazy form of using syntaxes, of using the paradigms. It's going to be everything that is. There's going to be a lot of roundings and circling and cacophony and onomatopoeias. And signification will start to happen in so many elements of the language resources. It's going to be very complex, and perhaps you're gonna understand in this Caribbean orality the meaning of this conversation through a process that not necessarily includes words. So when you start in this dimension, of course, and and also another fact is, when you get deep into America, into the deep, you also go far from Western. And another form started to happen. Another form of telling will started to happen. So this is the universe that I'm gonna start involving within my films. And so I think it's the relation that understanding film as an object, as a sculpture that can have dimension, and the fact that for the people, not me doing aesthetic decision, regardless what is the narration. So for the purist narrative people, they will see that my decisions are arbitrary. So in this arbitrary form of understanding language, I start to build upon this this voice that I actually sorry, I don't know exactly what you see or what they see. It's just the way that I make films. I don't, it's impossible for me to see what you guys see as my style. No, and I reject as well the possibility to over-intellectualize as well, because there is something that has to do with intuition as well. And in the process, to live in these places, like you forget about Hitchcock. You're gonna forget about everything like that. You're with Candelario and Estación Cocote, living there for a year. You have a lot of mosquito, a lot of heat. You start like having other problems than Truffaut or Godard. So yeah. And I build things like that.
Wow. Yes, please. So we have time for, I think, only a couple questions, but make them good.
Yeah.
Yes, in the back. Mike is coming to you, right behind you.
Hola, primero le quiero decir que felicidades película, que es demasiado como un viaje de LSD, me encantó demasiado.
Un ajedrez.
Sí, no, de LSD.
De LSD,
acid.
okay. Acid, okay.
But, well, my question is, since the beginning of this movie, I just saw the mystery of it, like everybody not understanding why we're here. There's el hippo, the Germans, and then the mystery soon turns into survival. Like, okay, we got to survive. Be it the hippos, los pescadores, el que sea, ¿verdad?
The fisherman.
So, but how do you, I guess, how did you organize this? Porque al fin del día, like, you have to like tell people what to do, right? And so, like, I see the vision, because it's all feeling, really. Like, all of this is just feeling from the white with the captain speaking. It's just like feelings. But how do you communicate those to the DP? Right? How do you organize yourself? Maybe the storyboards, como. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I do very long development process. No, I don't know, for those who are not coming from cinema, we have different stages. Actually, even financially is divided like that. No, you got funding from the development process, you got funding for the production process, you got funding for the post-production. No, for those who have the privilege to have a national cinema law, and we can have access to public funding. No, this is how we make. We make films. So this. I come from essay films and experimental films, right? So I come from making film by myself, no? So there is something that is impossible to me to express for me, that because there's something that in the way that I will understand even anything in my film is through myself producing those images and those sounds. So what I did with this film was that, of course, this development process is just me, right? I'm also filming, I'm writing, and also I include sometimes in the end of my development process, I include casting and location. So those are actions that are related to production, but also are part of my department. You can say my department is just me. No, I am my own assistant. No, everything. So there is something that has to do with me first. No, so. Because it's the only way that I can understand what I'm doing, no? And then with this film in particular, what I did was that I create 5 shootings, no? Most of the camera that you'll see, natural, it is my camera, no? So when I only work with a crew, and especially in this, I only work with a big crew, is when I have a lot of actors. So I have to become a director in the traditional sense, because my job is my actors, and because I have castings that are already 1 year, and I'm working with vulnerable people, territories that are very invisible in the global representation. So there is becomes a very complex work that takes a lot of time of me. right? So once I have that and I can just go there, it's because there's an ecosystem of a lot of sounds and a lot of images that are very with a decoupage, with a database that tells everything. I do my own assistant editing because this is how I get to know my film. So, when not necessarily people are coming and in a traditional way that I'm a director and the DP comes and he will do everything. They already come from a project that is already articulated and that is built upon already his own poetic. Okay, so they comes as a collaborator in a something that is already began. That has already began. So if I have and then in the editing process is just this is the only place that I don't share because I want to think that I'm an artist of the montage. This is what I do. No, this is what I am more present than in every other element of the. For those who know me, they understand. Okay, this is Nelson's framing. They know my photography. My friends, they know that I like this blacks since I'm a kid. They know that I have these solid blacks and all of that. But it's in the editing where I create my grammar, where I create my discourse. So when you control this montage in the sense that it's very important for you to produce whatever you are doing, it's easier in that sense to be able to organize. And I change. I have moments that are a lot of control, and there's places that is very jazzy in the way that I'm going to be addressing. But I think in the end, it is just. I take a lot of time making a film that in the end it just become it just articulate very well in me. It's been a project that it's been with me 3 years non-stopping, because when you want to do everything, it takes you 3 years to do everything. It's not that I but for now, I'm young. I can do it. Maybe when I'll get tired, and then my cinema will change. Yeah, but for now, I can do it.
Well, thank you, everyone. We are out of time. This was lovely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much with us.